Okay, everybody, we only got 7 of these Zoan videos left, but it's Christmas Eve today. We only got about a week left in December. Are we gonna be able to pull it off? I don't know. It's gonna come down to the wire. We got Marco's video today, the Phoenix Man. Gonna have to do Sengoku's video tomorrow on Christmas because he was a Buddha and Buddha was born on Christmas. I think that's how that story went. Is that how that story went? I think that's how that story went. We're going to have to double up, maybe do Orochi and Yamato's video in the same day. You're like, I don't know. We'll have to figure out something, but we'll make it work, okay? By the way, Merry Christmas Eve to one and all. It is December 24th as I'm filming this right now. Okay. Marco deserves his own video, though. I mean, I could have thrown him in there with the rest of the bird Zoans, but come on now. Marco, let's all just admit Marco has one of the sickest devil fruits in this entire story, okay? Maybe I'm just a sucker for blue fire, but any character that uses any, type of blue fire, I'm all for. I mean, it's like fire, but it's cool. Yeah, that includes Azula in Avatar. She was a villain, but she was a cool-ass villain, you know what I mean? Okay. So, yeah, Marco can turn into a phoenix. Does that mean he can, rise from the ashes after he dies? Well, he's yet to die. Or maybe he hasn't. Maybe Marco has died several times in this story, and we just didn't know, and he just revived himself every single time. Who knows? He did get punched in the face by Garp during Marineford. That tends to kill most people, so maybe he revived after that. Who knows? In fact, this is a little bit of a manga spoiler with the God Valley flashback, so if you're not into that, maybe skip over this section here. We do see an individual during God Valley that was there fighting. His name is Polo Graham, and he resembles Marco quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and say he's probably Marco's dad, right? And so Marco named, Marco Polo, and then Polo Graham, so technically speaking, if he is Marco's father, Marco's full name would be Polo Marco. Yes, his full name is Polo Marco. We don't know 100% yet. Maybe that was just Marco's uncle, or maybe his grandfather, but his name is Polo Marco. So, you see the pun that Oda did there, okay? Now, there was a theory that existed that's like, oh, what if Polo Graham died at one point? He had the Phoenix Zoan, and then when he died, he was reborn as like Marco, as like a baby. And then Whitebeard raised him, and then that's the story there. Well, while that does sound cool, and it does go along with the idea of the Phoenix regenerating, reviving itself after death, it gets really old, and then it, like, immolates itself, and then it, comes back. Which, by the way, in the actual myth, I'm pretty sure that is the only time the Phoenix is known to use fire. I don't think, like, in most myths, like, Phoenix can, like, blow fire or manipulate fire or anything like that. It's just that when they are near death, they ignite and just combust, and then out of the ashes, like a baby chick of a phoenix is born, all right? But, yeah, it's way cooler for Marco to actually, like, shoot fire and manipulate fire and blue fire. Anyway, it would be cool. We don't know if Polo Graham has that devil fruit. He didn't really showcase any ability to, like, fly or, turn into a phoenix or anything like that. And also, going by the timelines that we know of right now, because Oda could always change these around, Marco would have been 7 years old during God Valley. Marco was born 45 years ago. God Valley was 38 years ago, which means Marco was already around. He was a kid during God Valley. We don't see him there, but it doesn't make any sense for, like, Polo Graham to die and then, return as Marco as we know him right now, like a never dying, like, clone of that individual, right? However, we could still do something with this theory. While it doesn't make any sense for Polo Graham to become Marco, what does make sense, given that we know a little bit about Devil Fruit reincarnation, and especially Zoans. Zoans have a little bit of their own personality in there, right? That's why objects can consume Zoans, and that's also why, like, the Sun God Fruit, Luffy's Devil Fruit, evaded capture from the world government in the Gorosei, as almost like it was avoiding them, right? You could do a thing, and Marco's fruit is a mythical zone just like Luffy's, so you could do a thing where Polo Graham did in fact have the Phoenix Zoan, and Oda did draw it in one of the One Piece magazines. It's a pineapple because Marco is pineapple. He is just pineapple, okay? He has become the best fruit, right? Okay, go check out Rustage's. I'll link Rustage's pineapple song down below. I can keep on going as long as I got that pineapple juice. I mess up the lyrics every single time I sing it. But anyway, so what if Pologram did have the Phoenix Zoan and he does die at some point? We don't see him in the current story, so I'm assuming he's dead. And Whitebeard was taking care of his son, and we know that Marco was on Whitebeard's crew as far back as like 30 years ago. He was like an apprentice pirate at the time, and so he was around like 15 at that moment. Pologram did have the Phoenix fruit, let's say. He dies, the fruit just gets reincarnated immediately. Like, instead of getting reincarnated into another fruit or on some other part of the planet, maybe the Phoenix Zoan, the way that it regenerates, because the myth of the Phoenix is the whole thing is based around it, is revival. So Pologram dies, maybe very dramatically, in Whitebeard's arms or whatever, and he's like, hey, Newgate, take care of my son. And then Whitebeard is like, no, Pologram, you were my best friend, no. And then he just lights on fire, and Whitebeard's like, whoa, okay, what's happening? And then he gets turned into ash, and then out of the ashes emerges the holy pineapple, and then and then Marco consumes the Phoenix Zoan, the Tori Torinomi model Phoenix, and then gets the power, because Marco had the power since he was like an apprentice pirate. And so there we go. We could still do something with this. We could still have that. Or Marco just consumed the fruit like an ordinary, just like, oh, hey guys, check it out, a pineapple. That's my favorite food. Oh. And then he becomes, the immortal Phoenix. Now, he's not really that immortal. I know it sucks. You eat a mythical Zoan, you don't even end up immortal. But, being immortal is really hard. Do you think it's easy on Emu being immortal? Emu's been around for like 900 years, okay? Like, all the stuff Emu has to do. I mean, I'm sure Emu is like all shriveled up like a raisin once we actually get to see them, after the shadow powers goes away or whatever. Emu has to like have like a whole skin care, moisturizing routine. It's not fun being an immortal being, right? Marco can be hit, all right? He can be injured. In fact, both major wars that he's been part of, right? We had Marineford, and then we had Onigashima, right? Both dealing with, one dealing with the Marines and another dealing with a Yonko, right? After those wars, those battles, Marco is always seen heavily bandaged up after the fact, okay? If he was truly immortal and he truly had the ability to just snap his fingers and just heal his wounds, whenever he wanted to with absolutely no limitations, he wouldn't be all bandaged up and bruised afterwards, okay? So just like with any devil fruit, it really drains his stamina if he's going to keep using, like, the flames of regeneration. Now, he's had the devil fruit for a very long time, and he has I don't know if he's awakened or not. I mean, he does have the ribbon. He does have the ribbon, so I'm going to say he's awakened. The ribbon maybe takes a little bit of a different appearance for him, but he's awakened. Anyway, he can train with the devil fruit to maybe use his flames of regeneration a little bit more, efficiently and things in like the most optimal way. He optimized his regeneration settings. Let's just say that, right? And so he's able to do all that, but eventually, he's going to get worn down. And after big battles like that, he might be like, he's also a doctor, keep in mind. He was the 1st Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates. He was the head doctor. So maybe Marco is like, you know what? I got some scrapes and some bruises and some, fractures and stuff from that war, but nothing that my body wouldn't be able to heal from on its own with just some bed rest and medication. So I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to waste my stamina to heal like every single little cut and bruise on my body. Maybe he'll use it to heal the most, pressing issues. Like if he had like a compound fracture or something, like, oh man, I got stabbed in the gut or something like that. He'll heal those up. But when it comes to every other injury, just like give him some gauze and some antiseptic and he's good. You know what I mean? He's just not going to burn the stamina for that. So yes, the flames of regeneration are extremely handy in battle. In fact, that's probably when you would most use them, right? When you go into battle and you're at 100% when the fight starts. You know, he got shot with Kizaru, you know, like all the laser beams and everything, and he was able to heal right after that. That's when you start using the Flames of Regeneration. Like, okay, I'm going to burn through my stamina, but he's really adept at using this, and so he'll worry about, like, resting after the battle is over, okay? And so a lot of times when he goes into his full Phoenix, he looks like a Logia. He just looks like a firebird. All right, and every attack that gets shot at him, he just, like, as long as there's, like, not hockey involved, the attack just seems to pass right through him, and then the flames, you know, close in and they heal. Oda did confirm this in an SBS volume 58, I believe, that there is a limit to his regeneration. He can't heal from anything and just everything. But a lot of times when he gets hit with an attack, especially if it's a non-hockey attack, like if someone just stabs him with a sword, the sword will literally just, like, go right through him, and then the flames will just... So it's not the same kind of intangibility as a Logia, but it's effectively that. I mean, essentially, right? Now, Garp was able to punch him square in the face when he went to go save Ace, when he tried to just fly over everybody, and just, you know, Garp showed up and just BAM! You know, knocked him down, and he was like, you know, bleeding from that, and he was like, oh, okay, that wasn't so, you know, easy. I thought it was going to be easier, right? You know, and so that happened. So clearly Garp used hockey there to actually injure Marco. There is also another glaring weakness with the Phoenix Zoan, and it's not something you may even notice. It did happen at Marineford. Do you want to guess what it is? If you said Sea Stone, because obviously Sea Stone is the weakness of every Devil Fruit, you're right, but it's what happened, how he got the Sea Stone on him, all right? So Onigumo was the one that actually restrained Marco and then put the Sea Prism cuffs on him, and so he couldn't use his Devil Fruit powers anymore. Now, how was Onigumo, though, able to get the handcuffs on him? He grappled him. So that's the weakness. That's the major weakness. He's not a Logia. He's not intangible. Oda even said in that SBS question, he has a physical body, okay? So hockey or no, you could still touch him. And the blue flames of regeneration are not like normal fire. They do not output heat, okay? You can still use them to fight, and we'll get that in a moment, but they have different special properties. They don't act like normal fire. It's like Avdol's Magician's Red from JoJo Part 3, right? He's like normal fire, you know, flows upward in the heat and, you know, thermodynamics, and that doesn't apply to Magician's Red. It's magic fire. Same thing with Marco. It's magic blue fire. But you could still grapple him. If you do something that's not a direct injury to him, like if you just try to stab him or cut him or hit him with a buzzsaw or something, oh, he can regenerate that shit, no problem. If you know judo or something, like Gumo has the 8 arms because he has like a tarantula Zoan. Jinbei also. If you just grapple Marco, put him in a headlock and be like, yeah, say uncle, what are you going to do now? Marco's kind of screwed. Now, he's a tough guy. He's powerful. He could, like, you know, I'm sure, and if that's his one glaring weakness, I'm sure he might learn some anti-grapple techniques and stuff like that to try to, like, break out of a hold. But if you manage to grapple him, his flames of regeneration are fucking useless there at that point. There's really not much they can do. And in the case with Onigumo, he grappled him and then put on Sea Prism cuffs, and Marco was like, oh, damn it, I'm kind of screwed here. Now, eventually he got them off later, but, like, yeah, that was something that took him out of the fight for a while because of that glaring weakness. So it's one of those things that's like, I am immortal. You cannot kill me. It's like, all right, what if I bind you? What if I restrain you? What if I wrap you in chains? What are you going to do then? It's like, yeah, there you go. There's the way around it there. So there are some weaknesses to it. The special properties of the fire. So he cannot use them like, I'm going to, like, heat up my arm and then hit you, and then you're going to get, like, a 3rd-degree burn or something like that. He can't use them in that way. But the techniques that he does utilize, and we're going to go through them here, there's 5 named ones. There's a bunch more in the video games, but we don't talk about the video game moves. So the first attack he actually uses to defend Whitebeard against Kizaru. Remember when Kizaru, like, I love how the beginning of that war kind of went, where it was like Kizaru's like, I'm made of light. I could just zip over and shoot Whitebeard in the head and just call it a day. So he tries to do that, right? He tries to do the logical thing. Marco, this is like the first time Marco did anything in the story, and it's one of my favorite lines from him. He's like, hey man, you can't go after the king right away. This is chess. You know, he's like referring to Whitebeard as like the king in a chessboard. you can't just attack the king right away. That's not how chess works. You can't do that. And so he uses a shield of magical blue fire to block the Yasakaini no Magatama of Kizaru, okay? Now, this technique was not named then. He uses the same technique later, I think, to defend Zoro from one of King's attacks. And this attack is called Fujiai Zami. All right, the Immortal Thistle. And he basically just forms a shield of blue fire that does block a hit. So what I think is happening here is Marco is using his wings, like his own body, to kind of form it in the shape, because it is still made of fire, so he can like shape it to be whatever he wants it to be, right? So he shapes it in the form of a shield. An attack hits the shield. He is basically using his own body as a defense, but the regeneration flames kick in, and so the shield is constantly reviving itself to like block the hit as long as he has stamina. That's the way I kind of imagine this technique. It's a pretty cool maneuver, and he uses it to defend against one of the Admiral's attacks and against one of the headliners, not the headliners, one of the Calamities, the King, who is like basically the number 2 of the Beast Pirates. And so it seems to have a pretty high threshold of defense. I'm not sure if Marco adds hockey to any of this stuff. He does know hockey. But I mean, like, why wouldn't you, right? Like, why wouldn't you add hockey to these techniques to like increase the defensive capabilities, right? So he has another attack called Phoenix Brand, where this is the one where he just kind of like launches an attack of blue fire at his opponent. And this does seem to do damage. He used this against Queen and King when he was like fighting against them, when he was kind of buying Chopper some time. So I don't know if it's more about the special fire properties or more about him just like physically like kicking you or sending the blue fire, because they are parts of his body, and he's like throwing things into you and it just causes momentum and it does hurt. But you know, in that case, it really does seem like under special circumstances, the blue fire does do something. The most notable way we've seen the blue fire be utilized in a combat sense was when he was clashing with Big Mom, and Big Mom was using Prometheus, who was a homie that was manifested through flames. Marco's blue fire clashed with Prometheus, and Prometheus was hurting from that. He was like, why is fire harming me? It hurts, but I'm made of fire. What? And so Marco had this cool line. Marco has a lot of cool one-liners. He's like, this is special blue fire. This is magic Phoenix fire. Get that regular bullshit out of here. You know what I mean? Okay. So in that case, when he's clashing with regular fire or an attack that uses regular fire, he can use his blue fire to like smother it and put it out. All right. And in the case with Prometheus, who is an animated fireball, it actually caused him intense pain. All right. So he wouldn't be able to use it in the same way for everybody else, but in certain circumstances, it can hurt. Then we have a third technique called Pineapple Stone, Nashi no Subute in Japanese. There's a lot of pineapple puns when it comes to Marco and his attacks. It's usually puns for phoenixes, phoenix eye, still don't know the plural of that, in like Chinese lore, because there's also a bird in Chinese myth that's very similar to a phoenix. It's not the exact same thing. I don't think it comes back to life when it dies. It burns, but it's like it looks ostensibly very similar to a phoenix. And then Marco is also a pineapple man. So like there's lots of references there. So he has a technique called Pineapple Stone. This was the move he used when all of the people in the festival hall were being infected by the ice oni, and Chopper was trying to cure it, and he needed to buy more time for that. So Marco used this technique to just kind of cover the entire area, just like basically spread out his wings and then flap them, and then everybody got covered in the blue fire. And that doesn't cure the ice oni, but it kind of holds it at bay. However, the downside here is that it's literally taking the life, like when he takes his flames of regeneration, because it does work on other people to a limited extent, he can give you a flame of regeneration. It saps your stamina, and in exchange, it heals you or keeps diseases or viruses, in this case, at bay for at least a little while until you run out of stamina. So it was at least like something as a stopgap that Marco could have done for Chopper to, you know, create the antivirus in order to save everybody, okay? So remember, Marco is a doctor, right? But he doesn't just rely on the fact that he's like, I just use magical fire to heal everybody. No, he is an actual medical doctor, and he wouldn't do that anyway. He uses the flames sometimes to cure, like, minor aches and pains, but he also explains that, like, this isn't permanent. So, like, I can use my fire to, like, if you have, like a sprained ankle, like the Sphinx that was on Sphinx Island, right? I think the Sphinx was named Tama. And so, yeah, there were actually two characters named Tama revealed in the same story arc, because that was right at the beginning of Wano, and then we have Otama later. But anyway, yeah, you know, Marco uses the fire to like heal a sprained ankle, and then explains directly that like, okay, you'll feel good for a little while, but you still got to get rest. You can't be jumping around just because you feel like you're healed. It's not how it works, right? So he'll use this technique to heal himself, and he'll use it to heal other people in the intensity of combat, where like combat medics might not be able to get to you and heal you like the normal way really quick. He can use his fire powers to like heal you immediately, but there are side effects later. This is, I think, I still to this day think this is a massive missed opportunity. During the raid on Onigashima, we have Zoro, who's extraordinarily injured after his attack against Big Mom and Kaido. He uses his final move against Kaido, and then Big Mom and Kaido use their dual attack, their combo move on Zoro, and he tanks the whole damn thing, right? And so he's all tied up in that splint that Sanji's carrying around and everything like that. And then there's the minks that have like the magic special mink medicine that was never mentioned up until now that Zoro takes and then heals him for like an hour, but then after that, the kickback from the drug like knock him out or whatever, and it's like the pain really hurts afterwards. He's like, here you go, Zoro. Here's a magical Deus Ex Machina potion that'll heal you so you can fight King. I think it would have been so much better at that point, right? I think it's a missed opportunity, Oda. I really do. Marco was getting to the end of his ropes there, and Marco that entire fight basically said, I am not here to defeat Kaido. I am not here to defeat King or Queen. That is the Straw Hats. They are the new generation, right? They are the torches that will be carried into the next generation and all that. I'm just here to kind of support them. Dude, how much better would it have been at that moment for Marco to go to Zoro and say, okay, listen, I'm pretty much tapped. I've used a lot of my powers in this fight. I'm going to use a technique with my Phoenix Zoan. I'm going to take the remaining flames of regeneration I have. I'm going to be knocked out of the fight for a while. I won't be able to use my Devil Fruit for a little while after this. And this heal will also not, heal you permanently, Zoro. But I'm going to use the last of my flames, literally pass the torch to you. You will be able to fight and defeat King. And then the kickback of that is going to be intense. You could have still had the exact same dynamic. Marco's no longer in the fight at that point. He assists Zoro. Zoro still gets healed briefly, but then, I think it would make more sense for a mythical zone to have that property rather than just some random medicine that the minks had that was never brought up beforehand. That really did seem like it just came out of nowhere, right? So anyway, it's a minor complaint that I have with Wano, but like, man, that would have worked so much better, I feel personally. Okay, so yes, Pineapple Stone is an ability to just kind of heal people around them and just kind of spread his flames around the area. Then we have Bluebird. This is probably the single coolest. This ranks up there as one of the coolest maneuvers, period. Out of all the Devil Fruit techniques that you can think of, not just Zoans, not just Mythicals, like Devil Fruit techniques, period. I'm going to explain to you how this technique works, okay? So, King and Queen are fighting against Marco. He's jumping around trying to, fight back, but also try to make sure he doesn't get hurt. King takes out his sword and slices off one of Marco's wings, okay? Like, the wing is just gone. Marco, because the wings are, it's his body, but he still has the flames of regeneration, raises his fingers up like this. The feathers from his wing that was amputated, that was cut off of him, begin to move to his own whims. Like he has like the ability to telekinetically control his own wings, his own body parts that have been severed. And then he takes a feather from that, molds it, like forms like a different technique, and makes a bluebird. It's only in the anime that it actually takes the form of a bluebird, but it's still so sick. He takes that, and then he fires it back at King. So he's like, he attacks King with his own severed wing. He's like, oh, that you cut off my wing. That sucks. Let me use the feathers of my magic blue fire from my severed wing. I'm going to telekinetically control that, mold it into an attack, and fire it right back at you. That was a cool move. And like I said, in the anime, I think he uses it against Queen later, and the move actually takes the form of a blue bird. The technique's literal translation is blue flame goose. The ultimate technique, the goose, All right, and so he uses that, and I'm like, oh my god, that was so, it kind of, I remember reading that chapter, I remember reviewing that one, and it's just like, man, that comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, Marco lost a wing, isn't that bad? It's like, nah, it's not, it is but a scratch, and he just takes the feathers and uses them for his own devices. It's such a cool move. All right, final move, we have not Oni, Onguru, Crane Claw. It's just he takes his talons, his razor sharp talons, because he's still a burb, and then just charges them up with blue fire, and then just bam, slams into Queen really hard with them. That's it. It just Crane Claw. It's just like, I think it has less to do with the blue fire. I think it has more to do with the fact that he's literally like kicking somebody really, really hard with razor sharp talons as a mythical Zoan. Okay. So yeah, uses that technique against Queen, knocks him back. And those are all the name techniques that Marco has. He actually has more name techniques than I thought. Going back and looking at Wano again and his fight against at Onigashima against King and Queen, there's even that line is where he's fighting King and Queen simultaneously, and he's just kind of like, dude, fighting against two characters with, over 1 billion bounty is pretty tough. Fighting against two Yonko commanders over 1 billion, man, it's a little bit tough. Man, I'm having a little bit of a rough time here. A little bit of a like a tightness in my neck. I gotta really focus for this fight. Like, he's complaining about it, but also at the same time, he's kind of kicking ass. Even though he hasn't been in real fights for like a year at this point since the Payback War, and also he's wearing glasses now. He didn't have glasses. I guess he was wearing contacts when he was at Marineford. He's like, he has his glasses on. He's fighting against King and Queen. He's like, oh man, I'm semi-retired right now, guys. I really don't want to do this. Bam, bam, bam. Oh man, yeah. Bluebird, Crane Claw, Blue Brand or whatever, Crane Phoenix Brand or whatever. He's using all these cool techniques. He's like, man, I'm out of the game. I'm out of my game. I'm not at full power right now. So it's a little tough. I love Marco. All right, I made a couple of other videos about him. I've made a whole video called, like, The Tears of Marco, where I talk about the tears of a phoenix, where I talk about, his upbringing, being raised by Whitebeard, and the conflicting nature after Whitebeard died of just, like, what do I do now, Pops? Do I take over the crew? And he tried to do that, and he failed. And he's like, all right, I failed twice. You died, and then I lost to Blackbeard. I'm just going to abandon everybody. But then he gets pulled back into a fight, maybe a chance to, avenge Odin, so maybe you get some of that, like he feels a little better about himself afterwards. Marco is a man that has a lot of ghosts. He has a lot of ghosts following him around, and he's not really sure like what to do, and so he's a very fascinating character. So I think he definitely deserved the dedicated video there. Now, as a mythical Zoan, because he does have like paramecia abilities, we could talk about awakenings. But I'm honestly pretty sure he's already awakened as a mythical Zoan. I mean, like, we see him as like a teenager, and he has the devil fruit powers, right? And he's able to fly around and use the phoenix powers. Maybe he was able to regenerate to an extent. I remember there was the one fight between the Whitebeard crew and the Roger crew, and Rayleigh just kind of like stops Marco's attack with like one finger and like knocks him away, right? And so maybe he was only able to just fly around and attack like he basically had like a normal bird Zoan at the time, with maybe some extra, like he could maybe spit fireballs or maybe heal people a little bit. But then, like, the level of regeneration he shows during Marineford is insane. He's literally being pumped full of laser beams, and the attacks, the wounds are healing as soon as they're being made. So I like to think Marco has to be awakened already, and also being able to contend with King and Queen at the same time. That's pretty damn, like, he's got to have it, right? Like, okay. Same thing with Sengoku. Pretty sure he's an awakened Daibutsu, and we'll be covering him next time, right? So I think everything we've seen with Marco is what he's got so far. Maybe he's got a few other techniques we didn't showcase, but I think Oda's done a pretty good job so far in the story to, like, display everything Marco was capable of, from Marineford to Wano, right? All right, well, anyway, that's the video. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite scene with Marco is. What's his favorite one-liner that he says, because he's got a few of them. All right, next time's going to be Sengoku. Probably going to get that one out tomorrow for Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. Teching, signing out.